Hi, welcome back to my views and news. Another video, two news stories. First one is about access to sea, access to the Red Sea, access to port, Asseb port for Ethiopia. A few days ago, some statements were attributed to Ethiopian PM Abiy that PM Abiy shared his views with some Ethiopian businessmen about access to ports in neighboring countries, especially Asseb port. Later, a government official denied that PM Abiy said all these things. But now an Ethiopian minister on his social media account spoke about access to Red Sea, access to Asseb port. His post is available, anyone can read it. What did the minister say? Is the minister hinting at Ethiopia's future plans to reclaim, to retake Asseb port? Secondly, an update for you from two cities, two towns in the Amhara region. VOA Amharic has shared details of the situation in these two towns where fighting erupted between Fano fighters and security forces. And our people are suffering there in these two towns. Firstly, viewers, what is Ethiopian position about access to the Red Sea through Eritrea? Access to Asseb port? Because we know that after partition, after Eritrea became an independent country, Ethiopia had access to the Red Sea. Ethiopia used Asseb port. But I think during Meles Zenawi's rule, Ethiopia stopped using the port. Ethiopia shifted towards other ports, especially towards Djibouti. Now 90% of Ethiopian imports, exports are handled by Djibouti's ports. Though Ethiopia is trying to diversify its use of ports by contacting Somaliland, Kenya. Ethiopia was a shareholder in the construction of Somaliland's Berbera port, but Ethiopia could not honor its commitment of financial contribution. So Ethiopia was removed. But Somaliland and the UAE, which is 50% owner of Berbera port, want Ethiopia to use Berbera port. Kenya, Ethiopia and South Sudan reached an understanding a few years ago about building a corridor starting from Kenyan Lamo port, passing through Ethiopia to South Sudan. That South Sudan and Ethiopia would use Kenyan ports. And a few days ago, an Ethiopian minister was in Kenya, Alamo Sime, Minister of Transport, visited Kenyan ports, visited Lamo too, and he showed interest in using Kenyan ports. What about Asseb port? What is Ethiopian government's position? Does the government want to reclaim the port? A statement was attributed to PM Abiy a few days ago by some Ethiopian news outlets. They claimed that PM Abiy held a meeting with Ethiopian businessmen. And PM Abiy said that Ethiopia needed access to a port, and Ethiopia would use each and every means, including negotiations and force, to gain access to ports in the neighboring countries. Later, we saw a denial from government officials saying that Ethiopia believed in talks with neighbors to gain access to ports. Ethiopia does not believe in use of force. But again, what is Ethiopian position of course, Ethiopia cannot use force to gain access to Kenyan ports, Djibouti's ports, Somaliland's Berbera port, etc. When people say Ethiopia might use force, people mean that Ethiopia will try to use force to retake Asseb, to regain access to Asseb port in Eritrea. Obviously, that would mean Ethiopia-Eritrea war. What is Ethiopian official position? No one knows, but a minister spoke a few hours ago about Ethiopian position on Asseb port. It means that for Ethiopia, Ethiopian position on Asseb port is a continuation of what happened in the past. Asseb port is not a closed issue between Ethiopia and Eritrea. It's not a closed case. That is what I concluded reading the minister's statement, his message, his post on Facebook. Minister's name is Birhano Megarsa Lengiso, State Minister for Irrigation. What did he say? He started from the past. He said that during Johannes V, they tried taking it, we prevented with force. They means Italians. I think that Italians tried to take control of coast, including Asseb port, but we Ethiopians, Eritreans, prevented it. Then came Emperor Menelik. He said during Menelik it was given due to power. I think here he is referring to Vucciali agreement signed between Menelik and Italians. And Eritrea was given to Italians, I think. Thirdly, he says, during Haile Selassie, we returned with diplomacy. That through diplomacy, we gained access to the sea during Haile Selassie, not through use of force. Then during Mengistu, we kept it using force. During Mengistu, Eritreans were fighting, for independence. Mengistu was using force. During Meles Zenawi, it was given away again. Now what? Now what? So, the minister is saying basically that access to Asseb is not a closed case. Ethiopia lost access in the past, then Ethiopia regained access in the past. Sometimes through dialogue, sometimes through use of force. It will happen again. So either Ethiopia will use force or dialogue. He did not say that Ethiopia will use force or dialogue. But what he is implying is that Ethiopia will regain access to Asseb. Which means will Ethiopia use? That remains to be seen. Will it use dialogue? Will it use force? So now this is official Ethiopian government's position, we can, because he is a minister. He is representing the government. He is saying basically that Asseb case between Ethiopia and Eritrea is open, it's not closed. Ethiopia will reclaim access to Asseb. Let's see how Ethiopia is going to progress towards reclamation of Asseb port, but it seems something is cooking up. Ethiopia is going to reclaim access to Asseb port, it seems. From the minister's post, it's clear that these government officials have been briefed maybe about Ethiopian position, and in coming days, weeks, months, we could see Ethiopian attempts to reclaim Asseb port. Let's see. Secondly, there was a disaster in the two cities of the Amhara region, where there was a fighting between Fano fighters and Ethiopian military in the last 3 to 4 days. Heavy fighting there inside the towns. First town is Majete. Majete is in North Shore zone of the Amhara region. Fighters of Majete and Rasa are known in entire North Shore zone. Rasa is close to shore orbit. And in Majete there was heavy fighting. Reportedly, Ethiopian military has recaptured Majete town. Secondly, Mawdigi. Mawdigi is in South Wallo. Again, there was heavy fighting in Mawdigi too. In both towns, government services suspended. Communications suspended, cut off. Water supply system disrupted. Electricity service disrupted. Traffic remained suspended. Businesses, shops closed. People suffering. Wounded people include not only fighters and ENDF members but also civilians. Whenever there is urban urban warfare, there are civilian casualties too. Civilians died in both the cities. In Mawdigi, so far no restoration of any of government services. While we talk about the gains and losses of ENDF and Fano fighters in terms of territorial gains and losses, we must not forget that people, though they are supporting the military or Fano, they are neutral, they are suffering. Internet cut off, traffic, public transport suspended, banking service suspended too, government employees not getting salaries, communications cut off, businesses closed. If this conflict goes on, you can imagine the economic impact of this conflict on the people in the Amhara region, on Amhara regional government, on Ethiopian federal government, where Ethiopia is in talks hoping to get a few billion US$ from international community, from IMF, World Bank. Another conflict is in the making. If this conflict goes on, Ethiopia will be begging for more loans in coming months. So what is needed is some strategy to put an end to this conflict. Tigray war cost Ethiopia. Now Ethiopia is begging for loans, but for around a year talks have been ongoing. IMF, World Bank laying out new preconditions. They want assurances from other countries too. Still talks ongoing. While government is focused on getting new loans, it is not focused on putting an end to the conflict in the Amhara region. It wants to crush Fano fighters, no matter how long it takes, no matter what the economic cost of this military operation in the Amhara region is. Thanks for watching.